A brand new CNN investigation into the bloody attack of student protesters by a pro-Israel group earlier this month at the University of California, Los Angeles, has now identified several outsiders. One participant was identified by his own mother, who had boasted about her son's participation in a Facebook post. CNN says it reached out to the UCLA police via email, office line, text messages, and cell phones, but did not receive any clear response. They also reached out to the LAPD, who referred back to the UCLA Police Department. CNN also ID'd multiple other counter-protesters who participated in the attack on the anti-war students, some of whom were not even UCLA affiliated. A senior at a high school in Beverly Hills, 18-year-old Ilan, was caught on camera striking a pro-Palestine protester with a pole before joining a mob pummeling a man. CNN's investigation team found Ilan's mother and confronted her at their home. Now, she didn't want to be on camera for the interview, but she did place him at the UCLA protest and said he was defending himself. She also told CNN that she and her husband are proud of their son's pro-Israel support, even sharing that he will be going to Israel to join the IDF.
In other protest-related news, the president of California State University put the president of its Sonoma State campus on leave Wednesday. Mike Lee had agreed to move toward divesting from Israel and involve the pro-Palestinian group there in the university's decision-making process. Meanwhile, Israeli scholar Ilan Pape was detained Monday at the Detroit airport and interrogated for 2 hours. In a Facebook post, he wrote about being questioned over his views on Israel and Gaza. At the bottom of the post, he writes, quote, "The good news is actions like this by the USA or European countries taken under pressure from the pro-Israeli lobby or Israel itself smell of sheer panic and desperation in reaction to Israel's becoming very soon a pariah state with all the implications of such a status." Do we know anything more about why that detaining took place?
I think the kinds of questions he was asked does point to the why, right? He says he arrived on Monday at a Detroit airport. He was taken into custody for 2 hours by the FBI. He was asked, he says, "Am I a Hamas supporter? Do I regard the Israeli actions in Gaza a genocide? What is the solution to the conflict?" Asking him, I guess, to resolve the conflict himself while in detention at an airport. And he is, it should be noted, a really highly respected Israeli historian. This is dystopian to the extreme, and we certainly will follow up as more comes out there. But I think the headline here is the research, the follow-up that CNN, I think, very appropriately did on what has been the most violent at any of these college protests, other than that perpetrated by the police, which has been by this pro-Israel mob that descended upon UCLA anti-war protesters earlier this month. Now, CNN has done what so many other organizations have chosen not to do, which is to look at hours and hours of footage from that night and try to identify some of the people who participated in that mob. Now, it identified several of these people and went to follow up. In the case of this one 18-year-old named Ilan, went to his home, was able to confront his mother, who had been proudly bragging on Facebook posts about her son's participation. The mother had grabbed a screen grab of her son in a mask with a stick on the local news, attacking anti-war protesters, and proudly bragged about his participation. When she was confronted on video, and you can watch the video, we don't have full rights to it here, over on CNN or on social media. When she confronted the mother did not deny it, only after the fact that she delete her Facebook post and say, oh, her son was defending herself. But it is interesting to see the relationship here between this violent protester and the fact that he's going to go now, apparently, and intends to join the IDF. It's, I think, disorienting, to say the least, to think that someone who would engage in this kind of vigilante violence is now trying to be able to do it in a state-sanctioned way by joining the IDF.
Yeah, I'll say it again. Anyone engaging in violence on either side of the conflicts on campuses, the protests, should be dealt with either academically if they're a student, or in a law enforcement context if they clearly, if they initiated violence rather than simply defending themselves. That goes for people who, if he hits someone with a bat, that's clearly an illegal action that should be prosecuted. So too for the protesters on campuses who got in Jewish or pro-Israel students' faces and prevented them from moving about parts of campus. I hope that they are dealt with as well.
The problem is that there's such different things, right? Even if you think that obstructing the movement of a Jewish or pro-Zionist student across campus is wrong, what we're talking about here is felony assault. Multiple student journalists were beaten and bloodied at this attack. This young man, Eden, was shown on camera. And his mother circled him and said, "Yes, this is my son and I'm proud," picking up a long white pole and beating counter-protesters with it. Also said, the mother said, quote, "Ilan went to bully the Palestinian students in the tent at UCLA and played the song that they played to the Nakba terrorists in prison, boasting about, again, his participation." And he's not the only one. You can watch videos of Ilan using his pole to attack student protesters online. But additionally, there were a number of other participants, including older men, one of whom has been spotted, a local parent says has been spotted at a lot of anti-LGBTQ events. Someone who used to identify as the Green Party, now identifies as a Trump supporter, and who has posted anti-Semitic memes on the internet, joined with the pro-Israel side in perpetrating and participating in the counter-protest. He specifically wasn't filmed engaging in any violence. But it does speak to the weird confluence of interest that seems to be emerging in the context of this in this battle.
Protests on both the right and the left, protests and counter-protests, do attract just some crazy people, or people who ping pong ideologies from far right to far left to everything in between. And so it's not strange to find weirdos who just want to engage in violence at protests. I mean, that's a very common occurrence.
So interestingly, despite, again, all of these hours and hours of footage of violence that you can see, blood dripping off of the face of students who have been struck by boards and poles by these pro-Israel protesters, CNN reports that the LAPD, the California Highway Patrol, has not followed up. They just kept referring CNN back to the UCLA Police Department, which did not respond to multiple requests for comment. And here's some commentary from some people on campus that are supposed to and allowed to be there. A rabbi at UCLA's Hillel named Chaim Cedar Feller said, "I actually thought someone would get killed." He called 911 around midnight as he watched the violence unfold. He said they came to beat people up. He later issued a letter the following day saying that those fringe members of the off-campus Jewish community did not represent the 3,000 Jewish students at UCLA, which I think is right and accurate. That seems obviously to be true. And I would never want to do the thing that so many people who are antagonistic to the pro-Palestine protesters do, which is to conflate what people outside the gates of, say, Columbia say and do and what the students actually do. But this is the problem. Jerry Seinfeld's wife donated not to any of these specific violent protesters, that hasn't been proven, but to the counter-protesters at UCLA that were planning to be here. And there are actual people who were beaten up and physically injured, bloody. 25 people had to go to the hospital overnight because of this attack. This is the most violent attack we've seen on any of these college campuses. Not only has it gone undercovered, and I really applaud CNN for doing this investigation now, but the police have not actually followed up on this attack at the same time that we see the over-response in an instance like the raid that we saw on Hamilton Hall at Columbia.
More Rising right after this.